Hello, Moto. I am behind on my diet yet again, as one does. So y'all get to see me eat. I'm gonna do my ASMR thing. This is the sound of chicken tenderloin with tomato sauce and mozzarella cheese. This is what it sounds like. Can you hear it? Is it showing up? Mmm, yummy. Okay. So, latest quote unquote bombshell is about Graham Plattner. Christopher Mao, welcome. So there's this has been brewing for a while. And I've covered Graham Plattner stuff before. Hang on 1 second. Pop out. There we go. I've covered Graham Plattner stuff before. His controversies, quote unquote. The biggest one for me, well, not the biggest one. There's actually quite a few, unfortunately, for this guy. But one of the bigger ones is his Nazi tattoo, which is very bad and for which he has given absolutely shite explanations for that are just not believable in the slightest. He himself has described himself as a history buff, and yet he has claimed that he had no idea what that tattoo was. Hard to believe, even though other people independently corroborated in the media have said that he described it as my Totenkampf, which, of course, is an SS tattoo. Then there's some problematic stuff on Reddit that he posted, saying that like women have rape fantasies, and that black people don't tip. I think it was something like that. So, not good. Not a good look. Now for the broad picture of this, I will say that those posts came when he was a lot younger, when he had some serious PTSD. I mean, keep in mind this guy was in Iraq. He was a Marine. He saw live combat. He saw some absolute shit. So he said some really shitty things. Of course, it's not an excuse, but we do need to take in the entire context of things. This was a person that was not well in the head. And the takeaway is that he said all these awful things, and he seems to have become a better person because of it. You know, he has advocated frequently for the middle class, saying that we're getting screwed by the billionaires. All true. He's advocated for Medicare for all. He's advocated for mental health treatment. So there's people who do and say terrible, awful, shitty things and continue to do that. And then there's people that say awful and terrible things because they happen to be in a bad spot, and then they later come about to do better in the future. Ruby224, welcome. Now, again, none of this excuses it. There are legitimate questions of, do you want someone like that? Oh, no. What's wrong with my Castro Labs? My YouTube chat ain't working. That seems to be where I got all the action, all the trolls. Let me see. Settings, accounts. Why did YouTube get kicked out? Hang on 1 second. That's really weird. I wonder why I did that. All right, I gotta get my phone. Hold on. This is a great way to start the stream. I am a professional, guys. Don't let anybody tell you different. I am a complete and total professional. Okay? Follow that hearing bullshit that I don't know what I'm doing, or that I'm an amateur, or I have horrible table manners. I almost choked on my own food. I don't want to hear any of that bullshit anymore. You got it? Keep that shit to yourself. So, enough yapping. Let's get into it a bit here. Let me see, where is it? Ah. So, the first thing to know. Whoops. That's not what I want. Why isn't it letting me, Ah, there we go. That was weird. So the first thing to know is that the main person who's making the most salacious allegations against Graham Plattner is a career liar, a pedophile supporter, who has helped enable a Nazi agenda. Her name is Lindsay Fifield. Lindsay Fifield has worked for the Heritage Foundation. She has consistently advocated for Trump, and she has made it very explicit that her accusations are of a political nature because she supports Susan Collins over Graham Plattner. She has also helped get Brett Rapevanaugh onto the Supreme Court. She worked actively in that capacity. So it's very ironic that she allowed an abusive, drunk rapist like Brett Kavanaugh onto the Supreme Court, and now she has supposedly has allegations about Graham Plattner. Funny how that comes around, isn't it? The New York Times said that Lindsay Fifield has been out of politics and isn't doing anything with the conservative dark money group Independent Women's Forum anymore. But here she is getting quoted at a Republican congressional event in mid-April of 2026, a few weeks ago, with IWF as her ID. Let's see, where is her name? Founder. Lindsay Fifield, stay-at-home mom, Independent Women's Forum. I have 13 friends who are pregnant right now, and every one of them feels like the system is working against them. The Trump accounts give them peace of mind, and that's not a small thing. This is money that will actually be for their children at 18, and that's everything. Is this about the tax scam? World impact. Oh, yeah, this is the tax scam where Trump basically just made the rich richer, as always. She told the Times she had not been active with the organization recently. She was active with them in mid-April of this year. This is actually correction-worthy. Ms. Fifield, who is affiliated with Independent Women, a conservative group, insisted that her political beliefs had nothing to do with her choice to come forward. She worked briefly on Nikki Haley's 2024 presidential campaign, before that for the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank. Ms. Fifield said she had not been paid by any campaign or political entity since Ms. Haley's campaign. This is the only part of her story that I actually believe. Fifield has consistently shown that she is an ideologue dedicated to the Nazi pedophile agenda of Trump. So she doesn't need to get paid. Hang on, I gotta get my light on. Let's do that. She doesn't need to get paid to say and do stupid shit that are stupid bullshit. She doesn't need that. I believe that she is coming forward. I'm not saying she's lying about her allegations necessarily. I am saying that what we have seen so far is not enough. Especially from it's the boy who cried wolf, right? He cries wolf 4 or 5 times. It's like, just shut the fuck up, liar. And then, lo and behold, the wolf comes along. But we won't know that until we actually see the wolf. So the problem with her allegation is that she's a liar. She has no credibility. She's a Nazi. She's a pedophile supporter. She helped Brett Rapevanaugh get on the Supreme Court. So therefore, nothing she says is trustworthy. Now, we'll get into that in a minute here. That comes back later. Mr. Plattner's campaign said in a statement, let's be very clear, this is a lifelong GOP operative who's dedicated her career to electing politicians or Republicans. Ms. Fifield said she had no connection to the campaign of Senator Susan Collins, Mr. Plattner's likely Republican opponent. She acknowledged that Independent Women had been supportive of Ms. Collins, but said she had not been active with the organization recently. She was active with them in mid-April, right? Because this is when this came out. So this article, where she gave a comment in April 15th of 2026, which was a political... let's see, this is a conservative think tank. A congressional event, excuse me, it was a congressional event, so it was inherently political in mid-April of 2026. So she lied. She lied to the New York war crimes about her connections to the political world. So that's right alone breaks her credibility. Lindsay Fifield, the woman with the most provocative accusations in the Graham Plattner piece, is an ardent Zionist. I've done in the same age as the American citizen. To fathom that my allies could be kidnapped by terrorists. I have a daughter nearly the same age as this American citizen. It's hard to fathom that my Alice could be kidnapped by terrorists and held for over a month and not be a household name, wrote Lindsay Fifield, a visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. We will make a place for Abigail on Thanksgiving, and everyone should. On the solemn one-year anniversary of the devastating October 7th attacks on Israeli women and girls, Independent Women's Forum, Center for American Security, is renewing its call for the Biden-Harris administration to take stronger, clear action addressing the surge in violence against women and girls. The Muslim American leadership joined IWF in issuing the demand letter. Lindsay Fifield, Mahmoud Khalil, and Rameza Ozturk were not targeted for advocacy against Israel. They are being held accountable for destruction of property, organizing violent actions, making threats to Jewish students, and distributing materials funded by state-designated terror groups. You'll be surprised to learn that you can't promote terrorism and death to America while you're here on a student visa or a green card. Let's see an update. So this is a massive, massive, gigantic, huge, biggest ever, large, magnificent-sized pile of bullshit. Mahmoud Khalil and Rameza Ozturk were absolutely targeted specifically for their free speech, as we have seen in court. They were never actually committing any of the stuff that this liar has accused them of, as we saw in court. So this is why I don't believe a goddamn thing she says. She is a Zionist. The only way that Zionists are able to enact their violent baby-killing agenda against Palestinians and bombs overseas while denying us health care at home is by lying, by saying this kind of character assassination and outright slander. God, I really, really hope these two get some defamation suits going. They fucking need to. Whoever blesses Israel will be blessed. What is this? And whoever curses Israel will be... Whoever blesses Israel will be cursed, and whoever curses Israel will be cursed. This is from Lindsay Fifield. Again, she is a violent, discriminatory, baby-killing, pedophile-supporting Zionist. So yeah, everything she says is sus. On top of that, Fifield told an obvious lie to the New York Times and went unchallenged. She claimed to not know what a Totenkopf was, even while bragging to her group chat that she detected an actual one. I would never have known what that was, she said. He would joke about it being a Nazi tattoo. It's a Totenkopf, she told them on August 20th, according to a screenshot she shared with the Times. An actual one. Wow. It's almost like she has a history of lying. The IWF is a member of the advisory board for Project 2025. Now remember, Project 2025 is through the Heritage Foundation. IWF was a contributor to Project 2025 on the advisory board, and they had to lie about Project 2025 having nothing to do with Trump in order to get Trump in the White House. So yes, she is a born and bred, raised, pathological liar. The New York Times also undersells just how far right Fifield is. Her employer is literally a contributor to Project 2025. The IWF is a member... Oh, well, okay, we already saw that one. People are missing the Times admission that they read all her texts and messages from this time, and they found... let's see. Seems relevant that, unlike the standard I've seen in most of these kinds of stories, the Times has zero corroboration of any of the only actual disturbing behavior alleged, so it's literally just the word of a former Heritage Foundation staffer. Damn it, my chicken. Come here. Come here, fucker. Food break. Do I have a video to play? I don't think I do is the problem. Well, I do, but... Okay, I got an idea. I'm going to rush through this stuff. And then when Graham Plattner talks, I'm going to eat. As soon as I finish chewing. Seems relevant then, unlike the standard I've seen in most of these kinds of stories, the Times has zero corroboration of any of the only actually disturbing behavior alleged. So it's literally just the word of a former Heritage Foundation staffer. Does not 100% mean it's not true, but I genuinely don't think that this story even gets close to being written in a world where Plattner is less explicitly anti-oligarchy. People are missing the Times admission that they read all her texts and messages from this time, and they found no corroboration. They even read her diary. Nothing. All they found was a text saying she wanted to campaign for Collins. Mr. Plattner strongly disputes any claims of physical intimidation or altercations, his campaign said. The Times could not independently corroborate Mrs. Fifield's account of her of the altercations. The Times reviewed texts between Mrs. Fifield and Mr. Plattner, along with Google chat exchanges, texts, and Facebook messages between Fifield and her friends during and after the relationship. The Times also reviewed some of Ms. Fifield's diary entries from after the relationship had ended and spoke with two of her friends who confirmed that the pair had an emotionally volatile relationship, but could not corroborate the physical altercations or the most controversial comments she described. Now, I'm currently in a bit of a debate with Blue Sky shitlibs because They will see all of this. Keep in mind, this is pretty fucking damning in and of itself. I need to make sure I retweet this. Or retweet it again, rather. She lied about Palestinian activists to enact her filthy, disgusting, evil, baby-killing Zionist agenda. She had to lie about star immigrants who have contributed so much and been incredible contributors to society, as well as had incredible academic records, in order to enact her agenda. Yeah, she is a liar, and liberals will see all this shit and uncritically take her at her word because it's allegations of abuse. Now, this is kind of the post-Me Too stuff. Now, Me Too, there were people like Al Franken who kind of got screwed, and then there were obviously truly evil people like Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey. Wow, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on some of the others. I mean, there's Louis C.K., Chris D'Elia, but he never really got canceled. Bill O'Reilly, but he was kind of canceled, I think, before that. Or maybe he's an actor after effect. I can't really remember. Bill Cosby. So those people, you can lump all those people up as terrible, awful, evil people, and you can lump up people like Al Franken, who got screwed because they got caught up in this very understandably retributive moment where there needed to be righteous justice against people who have done horrible things to women and an oppressed group like women who have had to put up with this shit for so fucking long. And Al Franken got screwed because, yet again, the left believed the allegations of a right-wing political actor who, by the way, did the exact same shit that she alleged he did when he never actually came in contact with her. So they'll say, oh, well, Plattner has a Nazi tattoo, so therefore we have to destroy him. Therefore we have to believe everything this woman says. Yeah, this woman is also a Nazi. What part of this do you not understand? She supported the Heritage Foundation. She has repeatedly worked for Republicans. She worked to try and get Trump elected. She supports Trump currently. She's a Nazi. But you're going to believe her on this one specific thing because it suits your agenda, which is to get Graham Plattner off the ticket. Fine. If that's it, just admit it. Don't pretend that this is about, oh, serving women's rights, oh, protecting women. This person here, this evil Zionist who slanders two amazing immigrants that came to this country to contribute, that has helped elect a rapist to the Supreme Court, not elect, but get appointed and elect a rapist to the Supreme Court. So, come the fuck on. Come on. Let's get serious here. Ms. Fifield, who is affiliated with Independent Women, a conservative group, insisted that her political beliefs had nothing to do with her choice to come forward. She worked briefly. Oh, wait, we already said this. So basically, she's a jilted ex who wants fucking blood. That's what she's here for. Now that we know that Fifield is a career liar in a party that supports pedophiles, let's look at what her actual allegations are. Let's see. According to the Times, Plattner's then-girlfriend, Lindsay Fifield, said that while they were dating a decade ago, he regularly grabbed her by the shoulders, sometimes hard enough to leave marks. During one argument, he twisted her arm behind her back, shoved her into a bedroom, and held the door closed. Another allegation, New York Times story followed in that story, and one of Plattner's ex-partners, Lindsay Fifield, who's worked for conservative causes, blah, 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 described instances and recounted a time when Plattner locked her in a room and said she would remain there until she was calm. Plattner told Maine the allegations are just not true. So these are the most salacious allegations. And keep in mind, the New York war crimes went through her chat exchanges, her diary, and talks to her friends. They could not verify the most salacious claims from a political actor. Yeah, this is bullshit. This is bullshit until we get some more independent verification. If there is another party that can come forward that has a history of actually not wanting to lie in furtherance of an agenda, great. Let's have them come forward. Let's take their statement. Let's see what the corroboration is. But as of right now, all of this is horseshit, and it should not be taken seriously. However, over on Blue Sky, now Alejandra Caraballo is one of my favorite people. Love her to death, and this is not me attacking her. This is me, again, saying that liberals will fall for the low-hanging fruit while the pedophiles bomb us from afar. That's what's happening here. We're chasing this story, which, by the way, this is absolutely correct. Graham Plattner has lied about his Totenkopf tattoo. It's very clear he knew it was a Nazi tattoo. And I said frequently that that's problematic. And yeah, you should look into getting other candidates This was way back when there was time to do so. Now, keep in mind, I don't live in Maine. Alejandra does not live in Maine. Apparently, Maine voters, for whatever reason, saw a guy with a Nazi tattoo and were like, you know what? That reminds me of a thing that I got tattooed on my butt. I'm going to leave it alone, and I think he's okay. I have a problem with it, but it's Maine. I don't live in Maine. You want to talk about the raw political argument of things here? The Democrats need to capture the Senate. That's it. By any means necessary. Remember, Republicans supported pedophile Roy Moore in Alabama, who had a history of being banned from malls because he was a pedophile who would assault, rape, and molest young girls, right? Republicans stood by him because they understood the raw power that you need when you're in government. And then when they get that power, they exercise it. Now, I'm not saying, of course not, Democrats should know where we need to draw the line. However, if Graham Plattner is locked into this ticket, if there is no other way, let's say that these allegations do become true. If there is no other way, my position would be that Graham Plattner should resign when Ken Paxton resigns because he helped get a pedophile out of jail. When Trump, who raped multiple children with Jeffrey Epstein, resigns because he helped, because he is still currently in charge, right? When all of these Republican rapists and pedophiles, what's that guy, Ken Miller or something in Congress who beat his wife? I think he beat multiple of his wives. When he resigns, Graham Plattner should resign. We need to start thinking about raw fucking power here. There is a good reason to want punishment for these crimes, assuming, and that's a big assumption, that Fifield is telling the truth when she is a proven notorious liar. There's very good reason to want accountability and punishment for that. Good. Now, what good does it do to have that punishment and accountability on Graham Plattner, and then the Republicans get a 52, maybe even a 60-seat majority in the Senate, and then they pass anti-trans legislation? They say anyone opposing the regime is to be jailed, right? They give more tax breaks to billionaires. They give more AI out to companies so that we all lose our jobs. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm saying there's the raw power of politics, right? Of being able to accomplish the agenda that you want. And then there is the purist stuff about politics, where we have to maintain values. Sometimes that shit isn't compatible. I don't have an answer on that. But this is the political reality that we find ourselves in. We are in a war for the survival of this country. We are in a war for the survival of ourselves, of our loved ones, for the people that are a part of this flag. We are in a war to protect them, to save them, to keep them alive. If getting Graham Plattner in the Senate means that he did these things, but he's reformed and he's a better man because of it, while we get to keep these people alive, that's a thing that's a very nuanced discussion that we're going to have here. So Alejandra takes these things at face value, which Alejandra is way smarter than this. I would really, I mean, of course, she'd never come on my podcast. I have, 13 Twitch followers, but I really need to have a discussion, because this is so, like, I'm in this fucking stupid blue sky chat with one of these shit libs who thinks that Fifield should be taken uncritically. And I need, it's not a discussion you can have online. I need to actually talk to these folks where we can have a better communication, a better understanding, because Alejandra is a very smart woman. I find it very hard to believe that she's not aware of Fifield's past, and yet she's willing to overlook it. Why? Why? How many times have we seen these Republican criminals blame immigrants of voter fraud, and yet, where's that? Hold on. Where is it? Alabama.com. Alabama Senator Tommy Tuberville voted in Florida after tax records say he moved back to Alabama. Tuberville is a Republican nominee for Alabama governor. He is a guy that has said repeatedly there's illegal voting, and yet he's doing it. Trump has repeatedly blamed Democrats, trans people, of pedophilia, while he is the #1 Epstein pedophile. He is the molester in chief. Why are we consistently taking these people like Fifield at face value? Moving on. Here's Plattner's response. This gives me a chance to eat my chicken.
Grappled with how to process her experiences. She was quick to note he never hit me, he never punched me. She said he regularly grabbed her by the shoulders, sometimes hard enough to leave marks. On one occasion, yanked her out of a cab by her wrist after an argument in which she wanted to stay in the car. During one argument, she recalled he twisted her arm behind her back, shoved her into a bedroom, and held the door closed from the other side so she couldn't get out, telling her to remain there until she was calm. Eventually, Miss Fifield said she fell asleep and left the next morning. It hurt, she said, but she added it didn't cause any injury. It didn't break my arm. Did that happen?
No, it did not. There are some allegations in this piece that I just want to be kind of unequivocal about.
I do want to say that, you know, you look at a guy like Brett Rapevanaugh, when he was confronted about that stuff, when he starts bawling, he starts attacking, he starts getting all blubbery. Very different reaction here. So, something to consider.
Are simply not true. Anything alleging physicality, anything alleging that I knew what my tattoo was, these are the statements of someone who's politically motivated. In this piece, there's a lot about my struggling, not being a good boyfriend, certainly self-medicating with alcohol, and I've been very upfront since the beginning of this campaign that was a pretty dark period of my life after I came back from my combat service, and that's what that kind of life looks like. And so there are things in this that I absolutely will take responsibility for and have been speaking about openly for months now. But those serious allegations are just not true.
You did not grab her by the wrist. You did not put your hands on her shoulders. You did not push her into a room that you closed the door on. She's lying about that, is what you're saying.
Yes, that is not true.
Whoa! Hold on here. You see that? Watch this shit.
On. She's lying about that, is what you're saying.
Yes, that is not true.
I don't know, buddy. Seems like a bit of a tell there. Look, I mean, this could be anything. Could be nerves, right? It's a nervous thing. He's seeing his future possibly at scale. Maybe he's lying. We don't know. I'm not willing to take Fifield's word for it. And I think this is where Plattner has kind of dug his own grave on this subject, is by lying about his Nazi tattoo. He doesn't really have a lot of credibility. Look, I like a lot about Plattner's story. Right? I like a lot about what he's been through, where he, again, was at war, comes back, disgusted by it, struggles with alcohol, mental health issues. Then he's like, fuck this system. And he gets kicked out of a George W. Bush event for protesting, right? He comes back saying we need an armed civilization. We need an armed population to resist our government. We need to advocate for the working class. We need to ensure that those with less than us are better taken care of. We need to make sure that oppressed people are taken care of. I like a lot of that. But then comes the hard turn where it's like, buddy, if you did beat a woman, that's where I was talking about earlier. Do we want a person like that in Congress? Now, he's reformed. Here's the other thing. Let's move on real quick. So the women who don't work for the Project 2025 Heritage Foundation say this about Graham Plattner. I'm confused. Caroline Lemp, who dated Mr. Plattner for several months in 2013, described him as a gentle giant. She said he never made her feel unsafe or showed any signs that he was... When did Fifield and Plattner date? I guess let me see. Of course, there's no AI interview on this one. Fifield. When did they date? Fifield doesn't even know about her. Dated roughly between 2013 and 2015. So they did. So Fifield dated roughly between 2013 and 15. And then Caroline Lamp dated in 2013 from his Gentle Giant. She said he never made her feel unsafe or showed any signs that he was struggling with the physical or mental effects of his military service. He was a great boyfriend, said Mrs. Lamp, 36, who now lives in St. Louis. He was super kind, very nice, fun. The others who spoke on the condition of anonymity said Mr. Plattner was never physically threatening. One, a nurse from Belfast, Maine, who dated him for a couple months after he returned home to Maine, described him as responsible, intelligent, and supportive. Another who dated him in Washington between roughly 2011 and 2013 said she witnessed some potentially problematic behavior, referring to his heavy drinking, but said she felt really safe with him, she said. So here's the thing. What if it's actually Fifield and it's just projection? What if she's the one that did this shit to him? I'm not even kidding. The simple fact is that people with mental illness are like 5% of all violent crime, right? But all you ever hear on the TV is, angry man punching. I mean, all you ever hear is just like raving crazy man punches subway rider. You never hear the story about the 95% of normies out there, right? You never hear stories like breaking news. A man punched the cashier because he didn't have his favorite ice cream. He was totally fucking normal. This just in, drunk woman on a flight goes berserk. She is kicked off and is a member of the Karen order, right? We never hear those stories about normal people. But people with mental illness, like Graham Plattner has, the PTSD, are always accused of all this violent shit. What if Fifield is the aggressor here? What if she's the one that was always physically pushing him, right? What if she's the one that was locking him in a room? Maybe she couldn't physically throw him in there, but maybe she'd, when he was in there, she would just close the door and lock it. And maybe he, not wanting to become, an abuser, didn't break down the door or something. Or maybe that's all fabricated. We don't know. But, I find it more likely that Fifield was the abuser here. Honestly, I do. Because this is not the pattern, and this is roughly the same time span, 2013 to 2015. This is roughly the same time span that Fifield is alleging against him, right? So, what if she was the abuser? I mean, I don't think that is the case. I feel like his campaign would have said something to that effect. But I don't know. This does not absolve him, of course. We have seen terrible people do pretty good things like this, so it doesn't absolve him. But this does not fit at least the classic, not narrative, but operation of an abuser. It just doesn't. People who are conditionally abusive or conditioned to abuse others, this isn't what happens in other relationships. It's just not. Conservatives are being very clear that the Plattner story is retribution for Kavanaugh. Not surprisingly, they're all best friends with the story's subject who work for the organization that helped Susan Collins justify her vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh. The allegations against Plattner are better corroborated than the allegations against Brett Kavanaugh. That is fucking bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. What's her name? Christine Blasey Ford she talked to a therapist. She had friends she talked to about it. I recall she even had like a diary of some kind. And it will be interesting to see who manages to be consistent in their beliefs about such things. Your regular reminder that there was never evidence nor any witnesses to corroborate that Kavanaugh ever met. That's complete fucking horseshit. Fucking baseball crank with his shitty opinions yet again. God, this guy is such a piece of shit. I've had a couple of Twitter battles with him, and he is just, I mean, he is the Dave Rubin of online stupidity. He really is. New York Times published uncorroborated accusations against, and this is actually correct. The New York Times said they could not corroborate it, so this is factually accurate. Uncorroborated accusation against Graham for Senate. Unsettling toxic behavior that came from a heritage staffer who previously worked for a conservative org that backs Collins. E. Jean Carroll and Christine Blasey Ford are credible and upstanding examples of female empowerment, but this particularly lucid woman who has politics I disagree with is obviously a liar. Yeah, because it's actually uncorroborated, you fucking hack. You put the last name of Hemingway to disgrace, you fucking fraud. I've known Lindsay a long time, and we all hang out at Tune when she and Graham were dating. As her friend, I was never comfortable with that relationship because of how unhinged he was, and she told me he had an SS tattoo long before it became public. Wow, I wonder why you're not quoted in the story, huh? Is it because you're fucking full of shit? Could that be why? Oh, wait, do I have any stuff in, let me see, I'm not keeping up with. Caleb Riley, who's in, Aster Saint, Wild Groomba, welcome. I'm not keeping up with my Facebook and Instagram chats. 3 minute. Mary Catherine Ham. I've heard of this guy as a dark and imbalanced character for years. Women know that special kind of friend's ex, whose full last name you know long after. Keep in mind, these people all support Donald Trump, right? Who is a historical abuser, who raped his wife, who beat and bloodied his wife, who most likely raped his own daughter, and who was a rapist on with Jeffrey Epstein at his own apartment. But sure, they're credible after the day because of the badness, and then he runs for Senate, and you're like, wait, that guy? And it's hard to speak up about a guy like that who has quite a bit of power and seeks more. But my friend Lindsay's accusations are specific and detailed about what happened and didn't. Backed by physical diaries. No, there's not. This is a fucking lie. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Fucking liberals will see this shit and be like, oh, yeah, she's telling the truth. The New York Times said they found nothing in her diaries or texts that corroborated her most salacious allegations. I'm done reading this fraud. She's a fucking liar. Like I said, there's going to have to be some serious discussions with among these shit libs of like, are you going to just outright believe people who are career liars, or are you going to maybe think critically and decide that, yeah, they're probably not being accurate because they have, specifically because of their political agenda? I cannot reshape my tab. Okay, fuck it, I'll come back. And keep in mind, this is the MAGA ideology right here. This is the stuff that the shit libs on the centrist side will take uncritically. Oh, there's no sound, damn it. So 14. This guy went on for, yeah, child sex abuse. I mean, look at all these people. Now, what if this guy came forward and said, "Oh, fuck, who's an openly gay politician? Pete Buttigieg. What if this guy comes forward and says Pete Buttigieg raped me when in college or something on a grinder date? Would you believe this guy? This guy you would believe with no corroboration? No. I'm sorry, shit libs, but you're dumb. Meanwhile, the new world screwworm, a grave parasitic threat, has just been detected in U.S. cattle for the first time since it was eradicated in 1966. The parasite's revival comes after Trump and Doge slashed funding for screwworms monitoring programs. Elon deserves to be in prison for life. This is 100% correct. And I don't know. Again, the Democrats need to get their shit together, and any Democratic city, state that has contracts with Elon or any fucking Republican needs to immediately pull them from government. Cut the contracts. Biden made a huge mistake in continuing to re-up Elon's contracts and continuing to have his to allow him to have a security clearance. It's so fucking dumb. Say what you want about Republicans and this particular pedophile in this pedophile in particular, but he got in charge and he took action against Democrats. You know, cutting Doge cut all these universities. They cut all these programs that Democratic cities and states depend on. So do the fucking same, liberals. God damn it, I'm so tired of this shit. From 6625, we dropped sterile flies over South America that the screwworm and thus fuck me. From 66 to 25, we dropped sterile flies over South America that ate screwworm and thus prevented them from spreading. But the epic efficient crack coders at Doge thought this was a silly waste of the approximately $0 it cost us. Budget cuts enacted by the, well, this is AI overview. I'm not reading that shit. But anyway, his summation is accurate. And we already covered this. Again, it's always projection. Whether it comes to pedophilia, it's projection because Trump is the pedophile in chief. Whether it comes to voter fraud, it's projection because Tuberville and so many other Republicans are voter fraud criminals. And then now Lindsay Fifield is accusing Graham Plattner of abuse when she works for an abusive pedophilic cabal. Why would we take her at her word and not at least consider the possibility that because there's no corroboration, it's just projection? Anyway, moving on. You know what? I don't think... Oh, yeah, I already covered this. Yeah, I covered this one. As the Broadview... so if you're not following, the Broadview 6 were 6 people that were that were the Trump DOJ went after because they were protesters against the ICE Nazis in that area. So they were completely acquitted and found that the grand jury was lied to, and a host of other shit happened with them. So the defense is seeking evidence. The White House put pressure on the U.S. Attorney's Office to indict. They're asking for communications about the case, including from Akash Singh, a top deputy under acting AG Todd Blanche. The 8-page motion for discovery also includes any records of meetings and communications within the U.S. Attorney's Office related to the cover-up of misconduct before the Broadview 6 grand jury. I don't know. I had something I was going to add to this, but I got so caught up in everything with Graham Plattner that I can't really remember my talking points on this. And when I say talking points, I mean that I have a whiteboard just over here out of frame that is being written by George Soros as oops, I'm not supposed to say that part. Oh, sorry. I gotta go. Stream over, guys. Stream over. I'll be back to play 7 Days to Die right after this. After these breaks. Come